Knicks Take podcast.
Yeah, what it do? Mobbing with the crew, nothing new. I thought you knew, thought I was falling off. Blessings keep on falling through. Oh, don't panic, dog. Bro, a boo, I can't lose. No, I can't.
What's good, y'all? I am JAH, so focused.
I'm French, the bro host, and we would like to welcome you to
The Knicks Take, the Knicks Take podcast.
this is episode 46.
And this is a weekly podcast where we cover the most intriguing Knicks news of the week.
And if you want to find us on our socials, you could check us out first on Twitter. You hear me? You could check us out first on Twitter at The Knicks Take.
Then go to YouTube and search Knicks Take videos.
And if you rather follow on Instagram, you'll be able to find us at The Knicks Take.
Last, you can check us out on Facebook at Knicks Take Media. So, French,
Yo.
I would ask you how your week is, but I haven't seen you
In a few weeks.
in a couple of weeks. So, how have your last couple of weeks been, sir?
Yo. Hectic. It's been a lot going on. We haven't recorded mainly due to me and time and managing time wrong and doing things. This has been a lot going on. Been moving around a lot. It's mostly been on me, but in the time being during the week where we both normally working, which is why we normally record on the weekends, I've just been enjoying the end of the season. We ended the season off because last week we only talked about the last
We didn't talk about anything
4
last week.
games. But no, I'm not gonna skip you. Don't worry. I'm just saying this week we only had 1 game, so it's just been rewatching a lot of Knicks highlights, watching a lot of Obi Toppin highlights, Emmanuel Quickly highlights, a bunch of games that happened early in the year. Like I sent you the Boston Knicks game where RJ hit the game winner. I was rewatching that, but that's basically what I've been up to the last few weeks. What you been up to?
Well, I was trying to tell you that we didn't talk about anything last week because we didn't record. Since the last time we recorded, well, I got myself a new phone, Pixel 6. I like it a lot, but I'm with this network that for some reason it's letting me text, but it's not letting me make phone calls, so I got to figure that out. I also bought a bike.
Kind of bike.
Trying to get my
Electric.
hybrid bicycle that trying to lose some of the dad bod weight that I put on after breaking my hand.
I started doing push-ups this week. I haven't worked out since last year. Did some push-ups. So let me get back into
I'm talking about like, I got a bike. You said I started doing some push-ups. Really?
Score. I was like, damn. I started doing some burpees. I'm like, damn, I gotta work out more often.
Like that's not something you say, bro. If you would have said pull-ups, bet, right? Because everybody can't do pull-ups.
I don't got the pull-up bar no more. It's upstate with you now.
Well, I'll send you that back because I believe I have 2 pull-up bars. But anyway,
I need that.
So I bought a bike. I bought a phone. I think that's pretty much it. I think that's pretty much the highlights. Like I don't think there's anything really too much in my life that has really changed.
Okay.
Trying to figure out what school I want to send my children. Still working on that. Well, outside of that, it's been pretty, pretty calm. My job's pissing me off. They keep making me work longer than I'm supposed to, but whatever. But yeah, let's get right into what we discussed on the last episode of the Knicks Take podcast.
Last episode, we spoke on Obi scoring his career high against the Washington Wizards, Emmanuel Quickly having himself a triple-double in a blowout against Orlando, and we also covered the loss to Brooklyn. What else we covered last episode?
We discussed whether we should fight to keep Mitchell Robinson and Julius Randle on the Knicks. I don't know if we talked that much about Mitchell Robinson, and it probably wasn't that long of a discussion on Julius Randle. I don't know. But those are going to be those have to be 2 out of the 3 main things in the offseason that all Knicks fans are going to be looking towards as far as the future construction of this roster. Julius Randle, Mitchell Robinson, and are we going to make any acquisitions to this team to make us a better team next year?
I got a prediction.
So, well, let's get into that. We'll probably get into your prediction later. All right, we got a lot. We got a lot to go into.
Let's talk about it.
Let's talk about the final game of the Knicks season, where the Knicks faced off against playoff-bound Toronto Raptors. Knicks only suited up 8 players for this game. No RJ, no Deuce, no Grimes, no Mitch, no Cam, no Rose, no Randall, etc., etc. I don't know if there's more players that were out. There probably wasn't, but that, like, a lot of those guys are young guys that I just listed. So Toronto already clinched their playoff spot. Rested a bunch of guys except for Scotty Barnes. It was a strong start by the Knicks with the inclusions of Quickly and Obi Toppin into the starting lineup. We knew what time it was when Obi did a hop step reverse dunk in the middle of the first. Knicks got off to an early double-digit lead against the Raptors, but the Raptors were able to cut into it, take the lead with Obi and IQ mostly out on the bench, resting. Faron Hunt and Ryan Arcidiacono got some burn during that stretch.
And
Obi Toppin and Quickly came back in.
He's good, too.
He's all right.
Good, too, in the minutes.
He's all right. He doesn't need to come back. Obi Toppin and Quickly came in, retook the lead from the Raptors. Obi capped off the first half with a bank shot 3-pointer. Gave our future starting power forward 23 points to end the half. 23 points to end the half. Yes, you heard me right. 23 points. That, like, but wait. Or like Kanye said, wait, it gets worse. Right? Quickly opened up the third quarter with several beautiful runners and floaters, which put him over 20 in opening minutes of the second half. Third quarter, we got more dunks by Obi, right? But still a close game. We are talking about a playoff team, a team that is still in the playoffs as we speak. The Raptors, even though they rested some guys, they still had a lot of guys who are playing big-time minutes right now. Raptors kept the game close until the fourth quarter. What happened in the fourth quarter? Both Obi and Emmanuel Quickly would not be denied. Neophytes knocked down 3 after 3 after 3 until the Raptors were beaten into submission. Knicks win 105-94. What are my final thoughts in this game? Well, I'm just going to go to the box score for that. Obi Toppin, 42 points. 42 points. 10 rebounds. That makes Obi Toppin the 5th Knicks player this season to drop a 40-point game.
Evan Fournier did it. Julius did it. RJ did it.
Yep.
Who else?
Kemba Walker.
Kemba did it. So, yeah, he would be the 5th.
And Obi Toppin is number 5, right? He capped off the night with a fast break dunk from the dotted line that made everybody stand up and make the ugly... You ain't have to do that face, right? IQ, right? You thought it was just Obi. Nah, it wasn't just Obi's night. IQ, 34 points, 12 assists, 10 rebounds. That's right. If you know your math, that means he had a triple-double again.
How many turnovers he had? This
is what I tell you.
Look. Me and you don't know, right? We ain't even gonna check the box score. How much you want to bet is under 3?
We know it's not more than it's not more than 2.
And right? It ain't 3.
We know that boy takes care of the ball like it's nobody's business. Like I said, he should have been the starting point guard for this team. Emmanuel Quickly, he had he actually did have 3 turnovers in this game.
Oh, see. See, we got
So
too
he had
excited.
three turnovers, but that's still good, right?
Yeah.
He had 12 assists, right? 12 assists to 3 turnovers. That is a great ratio, right? Give that boy more minutes. Youngest Nick ever to get a 30-point triple double. The youngest Nick ever to get a 30-point triple double. Emmanuel Quickly. That was one of the best games, one of the most enjoyable games, I should say. One of the most enjoyable games of the season, and it was the last game of the season. So,
Do
I can't
you
really complain about anything.
do you fall in line with those people who say we can't look too much into this win because it was at the end of the year against a team who had nothing to play for, who rested everybody?
No. And I will say I say no because I said it before. They still had a lot of guys that are contributors, right? It's not about the win. It's about how these guys basically played for the entire game. And they played the same way that they've been playing over, since they've been getting extended minutes, since Julius Randle's been out. Quickly's been playing this way for weeks, right? Let me list the names from the Toronto Raptors. Gary Trent Jr. started. Obi Anunoby started. Scotty Barnes started. Kem Birch, Aaron Brooks. Like, these are guys. Precious Achua, he came off the bench. Like, these are guys who are contributors. Everybody all the guys that are contributors to this Raptors team, they got big minutes in this game. Scotty Barnes played less than what he normally would, but the way that Obi and Quickly were playing, like you can't take that from them. Remember, this Knicks team, it's not like they was playing all their best players either. Like, we were without
We missed
RJ.
half our team too.
Yeah. So that's the other thing. It's like you could say that, but we were playing shorthanded ourselves, and these dudes came out and they showed everything that they had. Obi, I don't see anything where Obi got an advantage that he would not have had if he was playing against better talent.
Yeah.
He's always, no matter who he's on the court with, outrunning the other team to the other end of the basket, to the other end of the floor. And he had, I would say, maybe half of his points came just by beating the other team. Who are the Raptors going to play that's going to stop Obi that they didn't play in this game?
Siakam.
Is Siakam going to stop Obi? Like, is he going to be chasing him up and down the court? He can. I'm not saying he can't, but
I know Obi first scored his career high 19 points against the Raptors, so you do make a good point. And that was with everybody healthy.
Maybe Obi doesn't shoot 6 for 14 if Siakam plays, maybe, right? But I don't know. Maybe he doesn't get the double-double. Maybe he doesn't get the 10 rebounds. But does that mean that he has a bad game? No.
Yeah,
I think he would have still had a great game.
My take on this game was like, I always compare it to like season-ending games of previous years, and I vividly remember before Tibbs got here, the last game of that season when we were about to go into the lottery, and we got smoked by like 30 points, and I'm just like, bro, if we can't take something positive from a game where two of our last lottery choices, not lottery choices, but two of our last draft picks from last season are leading the charge in a win at the end of the year, and one of them goes off for 40 points and a 30-point triple double comes from the other one. It's like, yeah, I understand they didn't play their whole team. We didn't have our whole team as well, like you said earlier. When you watch this game, the Raptors were not playing like this game didn't matter. They played trying to win this game all the way to the end. But they were just overmatched with the talent that the Knicks had from their two young guys who've been coming off the bench all year long. And that's something that we're going to address later on, where we talk about, like, if this talent has been on the bench all year long, it seems like they have been ready more than they've been ready before this time period that they've been allowed to be starters. And Tibbs has to address that now that the season is over, and he does talk about it, and we're gonna talk about that in a little while. But I just feel like next season, just I'm way more hopeful for next season than we normally are at the end of next seasons, because there's normally so much things that we have to get better at. When you're looking at this team now and where the step that we're going into this offseason with, we haven't had that in how long, where we have so many productive young talent that could lead us to the playoffs if they just had the opportunity to play more. When the last time we felt that way? We felt like, yeah, Frank Ntilikina deserves to be a starter, and let's see what we get from him instead of looking at Jaren Jack, or let's see what Kevin Knox could do for us. We drafted him with the 9th overall pick. Like, no, we have legitimate young talent on this team who's doing all the things that lead to winning. Every draft pick that this front office has made in the last 2 years since they've been here have been damn near home run draft picks. And we have more draft picks coming into this year. We have young talent that's ready to step into their own. That looks like they're ready for a solidified role in the NBA rotations. And they playing under Tibbs. Tibbs has been working them. He's been grooming them for this role that we believe that they're ready for now. It looks like Obi's ready to be a starter. It looks like IQ's ready to be the starting point guard of this team, and we don't have to be looking into free agents and seeing who's there. We don't need to be looking at the trade market to see who's there. We all we gotta do is look internally and look at the young guys that's on the team to address all the needs that need to be addressed. Because I don't see what hurts having IQ start. He's been the best all-around player on the team all year.
I mean, it's too late now, so
It's too late now.
because we don't know whether he should start next season or not. We won't know until we see what the makeup of the team is. You know, do we add somebody? Do we stay with what we got? Do we just try to move into the youth movement of what we have? Do we get rid of the youth movement to try and bolster the talent? We have to wait and see what this front office does before we start talking about whether Quickly should start. I think he's made the case that if we stay with what we have right now, there's no reason why he shouldn't start next season. And I've been saying that for weeks. So
we should be looking for a backup for him. That's what we really should be doing.
Well, I think we're done with the Mavericks game. So
Raptors.
what do you want? The Raptors, excuse me. I'm foreshadowing. What do you want to get into now?
Well, we should probably just get into where we felt like the season went wrong, or how it went wrong. What's your view on that?
My view is multiple different reasons why, how, and where this season went wrong. You could say that it went wrong at the beginning of the season before we even played a game, when we basically doubled down on Kemba Walker and Derrick Rose as our starting and backup point guards for this team. We were very excited about that, right? If you recall how the season started, we were excited to see what 20 minutes of Kemba, 20 minutes of Derrick Rose, that should be fine, right? Mm-hmm. It didn't really go that way. I do think that we tried to start off that way. And I remember the first few games, Derrick Rose actually would be finishing games so that we could, we had a unit out there that played together, was comfortable together. But this team wasn't really gelling right. And then when this team wasn't gelling right, it was up to 20 games in. Tibbs was like, all right, we got to make a change. We got to do something. He was trying to prevent what actually happened with this season from actually happening. But that leads to the second thing. Tibbs' decision-making when it came to roster construction, lineups and the such that his response to Kemba Walker and taking him out of the lineup, all right, you took him out of the lineup. Maybe you should have done it a little bit better. Maybe you should have had him come off the bench, but you took him out the lineup. Your immediate response was to have Derrick Rose and Alec Burks as your point guard rotation. And that was probably the wrong move. Understood why he did it. Not saying that it was, it's easy to say in hindsight it's the wrong move. Like in the moment, Quickly wasn't really shooting great. He wasn't really playing like a point guard. I understand. But Alec Burks was not a point guard. And he ran with Alec Burks as a point guard from that moment for the rest of the season. And there was a little stretch when Kemba Walker came back, and then he stuck with Kemba Walker for too long again. And these were all just poor decision after poor decision after poor decision by Tibbs, where he relied on past history as opposed to trying to let the young guys figure it out, have them earn and learn how to stay on the floor. He should have did that. If he would have did that, I think we would have had some more wins this year. I think we might have been looking at play-ins. We might have been looking at playoffs. Because as you see at the end of the year, we just talked about this last game against the Raptors. Manuel Quickly and Obi Toppin are good. And we, just as much as I can blame Tibbs, it's also because of him that they look the way that they look, right? But he should have trusted his own tutelage. But you guys are putting in the work, you're putting in the extra work. Go ahead and show me.
The reason why I'm not going to hold that against Tibbs is mainly because of the fact that he's a very experienced NBA coach, and he's probably just looking at this year as the year where we just going to be developing the young guys, and we're going to be mostly living on the backs of our vets. And I understand, as fans, we seeing every game, and we seeing that they're the most productive unit. Whenever the young players are on the court, they're the ones who are doing everything that we want to see out of this team. And we're not seeing them in practice, and we're not seeing them behind the scenes. And Tibbs is doing things behind the scenes to perfect them so that he can count on them to play higher minutes. And every post game, he keeps saying, yeah, we all see the highlight plays, but we don't ever see the plays where guys are the ones making a mistake on the rotations. And you may look and see it's one guy's fault, but really it's this other guy's fault. And yeah, that's stuff that as a fan you ain't really focusing on unless you really studying the X and O's of the game. But he been grooming them, and he probably didn't feel like they was ready until he saw them playing significant minutes. And yeah, cool. Now that he sees it, what you going to do about that moving forward? That's what we really should be caring about as Knicks fans, because he's not getting fired. He's going to be back here next year, and we're going to see how he views his unit and how he views his young core. But I feel like this season had many chapters that defined where we ended up. And we went wrong from the very jump. I agree. We started off wrong, but it ain't for the same thing that you said. We started off wrong with that Bing Bong shit. Ever since Bing Bong, everything just went wrong. We got that one win against the Celtics. We played really well, and then we fumbled at the end. Got that win, Bing Bong. Then Mitch, boom, his weight started causing him some injury issues. Nerlens Noel legs gave up on him. Fell off the whole season. I don't even remember 5 games that he played in a row. And he had one little solid stretch, and then he got injured again. Then the Julius Love affair turned to hate immediately at the beginning of the year around Thanksgiving. Kemba got benched. COVID ran through the whole lineup. All the young players was in COVID jail. You remember that? They was all saying, free us, free us. Everybody was in COVID jail, and we was forced to watch the Knicks starters play with damn near 48 minutes. Kemba came back, had a 40-piece, and then didn't do anything else. stayed in the lineup a little longer than he probably should have, like you said. Then RJ, since the new year, just became the all-star. Obi winning the dunk contest, and Kemba gets benched again. Like, this season just was nothing but roller coaster, roller coaster, roller coaster. So many things went wrong. And at the same time, when you look back at this season, I feel like it's going to be the season that we watched RJ emerge as a solidified all-star. It was the season that we watched IQ and Obi finally figure it out. We watched Deuce McBride get his feet wet in the NBA and solidify his role as a catch-and-shoot player who's also going to be able to lock down on the defensive end. Jericho Sims can play in any NBA rotation after this season.
Thanks.
And this is what we're going to remember coming back to this year. At least I believe, because Evan Fournier, he beat the Knicks 3-point record in this first year here, but I don't feel like we've seen everything we had to see from Evan Fournier. I feel like next season he's going to be a lot more comfortable in his role here. He's going to be like, because I see him as a solid team defender at times. Maybe he's not the best individual one-on-one defender against the elite players in the NBA, but I feel like he fits in the Tom Thibodeau system. And I like the lineup where we was watching at the end of the year where IQ, Obi, Sims, there was a bunch of young guys, and Alec Burks and Evan Fournier were just the wing shooters, ready to catch and shoot, ready there to space the floor and play defense. Like, I like that lineup, and I can see that happening again next year. Maybe we just don't have a Julius Randle, Kemba Walker, Nerlens Noel, like all these guys that we got to give minutes to. That's not going to be the case next year. At least I don't think. I hope that's not going to be the case next year. Maybe Kemba's going to be gone and Noel's going to be gone most likely. Maybe Noel's going to be back. But I feel like next year we're going to see a huge difference in lineup management in terms of these young kids, because we're going to have some new draft picks next year. We're going to want them to get some minutes too. The ones that we already done drafted are going to have to step up and be our starters and be able to be depended on and be able to help guide the new young players that are going to be coming onto the team. So I don't see it ever going back to what it was this year, because we saw it didn't work.
Bing bong.
So anyway, yo, I'm the GOAT. So speaking of the young players, ESPN dropped the top 25 under 25. And I actually had the list, and then I misplaced it. I'll find it probably by the middle of this conversation. But needless to say, the reason we're talking about it is one player named Rowan Barrett Jr. is nowhere located on this list. What are your thoughts on that?
It's regular. It's been that way since he's been drafted to the Knicks. Nothing you could really speak on about that, because ESPN has shown that they're not reputable when it comes to these lists and young players, because they're always leaving somebody off for just buzz on to spark it back up. To get this is that time of year where everyone is just trying to watch the playoffs. They ain't really trying to read no articles, but now you gotta have this top 25 under 25, and you gotta get people outraged. We see the type of tricks they do. RJ, clearly one of the top 25 young players in his age.
I mean, we could
go
through the list, as soon as I pull it up. But let's just go at number 25, because that's the one that you don't need money to figure out who's on the list. Number 25 is first name there. Jaren Jackson Jr. Do you think Jaren Jackson Jr. this is a list based on future potential. Do you think Jaren Jackson Jr. has more future potential than Rowan Barrett Jr.?
I like Jaren Jackson.
I do as well.
That's hard to compare his trajectory to RJ's, because they play like different positions, and
completely.
Jaren Jackson was like the first Evan Mobley, kind of, to a degree. Maybe just not the same size. I don't know. Who's 24? I can't do RJ and Jaren Jackson. That's
I'm still trying to actually pull it up. Pull it up. Who is number 24? I just looked to see who is number 25. I will. Another name that I remember being on there is the guy who RJ was basically seeking out every time they matched up when he played against the Miami Heat. That's Tyler Hero. Tyler Hero is on this list. And you're making a face. Make your case as to why Tyler Hero has more future potential than RJ Barrett.
How could he possibly have more potential than RJ? He doesn't even start. He's not relied on every night to be among the top 2 scorers on your team nightly and guard the best player on the other team. It's not even close. Like, RJ clears Tyler Hero. I don't even understand why Tyler Hero is above Jaren Jackson. Like, cool, he's a scorer. He's a Heat plug off the bench. He's a J.R. Smith kind of player. Like, cool, we get it. I'm not saying he's whack. I'm not saying he's not a good player. He's just not going to be among the elite classes of the NBA in the years to come. I don't believe so. He's going to be a Lou Williams kind of player, I feel like.
I was about to read off the list, and then I saw, oh wait, that's not it. That is last year's list. So let me see if I can find it. No, I just keep getting links to it. So I just remember Tyler Hero was on it. Jaren Jackson Jr. was number 25. I know Luka, Ja Morant, Trae Young, LaMelo Ball are all in it. Zion Williamson is still in it, even though he hasn't played all year. And there may be questions as to whether he'll actually ever come back to the league. I think he will, but I think that needs to be taken into consideration also.
I'm gonna pull the list up for you. I got ESPN Plus. That's the reason why we couldn't get into it. 24 is Tyrese Maxey.
There you go.
What you think? Tyrese.
It's very hard. It's very hard because, and I'll say why. He's been making a case since they've acquired James Harden to be a legitimate number 3 option on that team, which if RJ Barrett was on that team, he would be playing as number 3 on that team as well. So, and that's the only way that I could really look at it, right? Like, I argue that Tyler Hero argument the same way you do. If you put Tyler Hero on the Knicks, is he going to be able to be the engine of the offense the way RJ Barrett was when Randall was out and even when Randall was in? Are we going to be able to run the offense through Tyler Hero? Somebody said, yeah, if he did, he'd be able. Somebody I talked to said he would do what RJ Barrett does, except he would do it more efficiently. I don't see it, right? Because he can't do the same things that RJ Barrett does. He would be able to do them differently, but if he does them differently, he would have to account for way more than what he has to account for now. Double teams basically game planning for you specifically. Not to say that teams don't game plan for him, but he comes off the bench. He's a 6th man. He's 6th man of the year this year. If RJ Barrett is on the Miami Heat, he fills the role differently than Tyler Hero. He won't be able to do the same things as Tyler Hero, but he would be backing up Jimmy Butler. And yeah, I see RJ Barrett fitting on Miami. I don't see Tyler Hero running the engine of the New York Knicks offense.
Yeah.
Might he be a better fit for the Knicks next to Julius Randle? Yeah, probably, but that's not what we're arguing about.
I don't feel like it's an argument for a few of these players, and that's just going to show like.
But Tyrese Maxey,
it's not a list.
Tyrese Maxey, it's very hard. I kind of need to. I don't want to say anything that I'm gonna end up eating my words next year. Tyrese Maxey is doing a lot, showing a lot. He's still young. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know if I can say 100% he has less. He has less than RJ Barrett.
RJ
There's an argument. There's an argument to be made.
is going to have a better career trajectory than Tyrese Maxey, Tyrese Halliburton. Who else they said? Who was the first one we were just arguing?
Jaren Jackson Jr.
Jaren Jackson. I don't know, maybe not, but definitely Tyrese Maxey, John Collins. Like, come on now, like, bro, they being disrespectful. Tyler Hero, that's who I was referring to. He like RJ is gonna have a better career trajectory than they are. It's like you can't just ignore defensive impact for your team when you're talking about stuff like career trajectories for young players.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that he's underneath a proven head coach where he's going to do nothing but just soak up more and more knowledge and become a much more better defender. You see what Tibbs did with Jimmy Butler's career. You've seen what he's done with Derrick Rose's career, Taj Gibson's career. Like, he's going to get the most out of RJ Barrett. And RJ Barrett's going to be in the gym working every like opportunity that he possibly has. Like we know that about RJ, and we know that he's going to become a star because he doesn't see anything less than that for himself. So I don't know how these other guys view themselves, but I don't know if their work ethic is going to match RJ Barrett's work ethic and do the things that he's already doing as a 21-year-old. Like,
I don't know yet.
Come on now. Desmond Bain. You're comparing Desmond Bain. I understand.
Yeah, that was another one. That's another name. Yeah.
He's a good player. I get it. He fits it's Memphis perfectly.
The problem is if you were to say, okay, best offensive players, okay, I could say you can make the argument that there's 24, 25 better offensive players than RJ Barrett. Better defensive players under 25. Okay, you can make that argument. Best players for their role under 25. I could see all of these players being the best players for their role, better than RJ Barrett, because RJ Barrett hasn't proven it for a full season. The problem with this list is that it's based on something that you can't prove with statistics. This is basically an eye test and statistic analysis.
And favoritism.
Right. And with that, it's like, okay, just based on the parameters that you've set, I don't see how you can exclude RJ Barrett from this list. I don't see it. You know, the fact that he's made improvements every year in the league, in his game. When he came into this league, he couldn't shoot, he couldn't finish, he couldn't go right. Last year, he was better at shooting. He was better at shooting. He shot over 40% from three last season. Now he's finishing left and right. Right? He's improving his game. He's getting to the paint. He's getting to the foul line. He's able to have an NBA team run their offense through him, and it looks good. Half of the players on this list, I shouldn't say half, but a good amount of the players on this list, you can't say that for. I can't say that if you made Tyler Hero the best, the offensive engine on your team, that team would look anywhere as good as the Knicks offense has looked. So I just think the parameters that they set for this list kind of sets them up for failure by excluding RJ Barrett from the list.
But anyway, enough about ESPN. We did leave out, and when we were talking about the last game, that Leon Rose interviewed with Mike Breen, and there was a report that Tibbs regretted not playing the young kids more.
Bing bang.
What was your thoughts about that interview and that report?
So the interview, I was like, he's saying everything that I would expect him to say. And that was really pretty much it. you can't look at anything that Leon Rose says in a scripted interview where he picks the questions and he chooses his own answers. You can't look at anything and take it at face value. But you can see what he's trying to
prioritize.
No. You can look at what he's trying to feed the masses, and you can make your assumptions based on that, right? You can see what he's trying to tell us as Knicks fans, and what we can take from that is he's not going to sell the young players off for nothing, right? You can look at what he's saying about Julius Randle, and he's not going to sell off Julius Randle for nothing. You can look at Tibbs, and you can see he is fine with how Tibbs has handled the situation that he's been given. Not that it was great, and I think he would even admit that this was, he said, it's a disappointing season. But you could see that he still has faith in Tom Thibodeau's ability to correct the ship. Does that mean that Julius Randle won't get traded? Does that mean that we're not going to lose any of these young pieces? Does this mean that Tom Thibodeau absolutely won't get fired? No, that's not what any of it means. But you can kind of see what he wants us to believe and see and think. And that's the way it should be, right? That's the way it should be for us. That's the way it should be for the other teams in this league. That way he's operating from a position of power, which is basically what that interview was about. The report about Tibbs regretting not playing the young kids more, which I believe Mark Berman was going around and saying that to anybody he could get to listen. I think if it's true, that's great, right? That's everybody's biggest complaint about Tibbs this year. Everybody's biggest complaint about Tibbs this year was his hate for the kids, right? He hates the kids. He won't play the kids. He'd rather play Taj Gibson and Alec Burks and Evan Fournier and all these guys. And he's always holding them accountable, but he's never holding the veterans accountable, blah, blah, blah. And the fact that he can look back at the season and say, you know what? I should have given these guys 1 minute. I should have trusted them more. That's great. That's great, especially if he's the coach next season, because that means that Tibbs, if anything, he's not going to second guess himself, right? He's going to make a decision that he's sure of. And if he feels that way, that means when it comes into next season, he's not going to second guess whether he should play Emmanuel Quickly more. He's not going to second guess whether he should play Obi Toppin more. He's not going to second guess whether he should play Cam Reddish more, Quentin Grimes more. He's going to play these guys. He's going to play Jericho Sims more. He's going to play all these young guys because he knows that everything that he has taught them is sinking in, and they're executing it, and they're going to be better for the rotation and the roster than what he's been putting out there.
And I believe that's based off right now. That's not even going into account how much better they're going to get over this offseason.
Exactly. And Fred Katz wrote an article in regards to Tibbs's relationship with the young players. And in that article, it went into how before every game, there was a pre-practice for all of the young kids, where all the young kids went in and they went over rotations, they went over everything they need to do offensively, defensively. And Tibbs basically, it was drill before regular practice for the kids. And, you know, in that article, Taj Gibson was even said, like, yeah, there's a difference between how Tibbs used to run his rotations compared to now. This whole thing with him focusing and working with the kids and his relationship with Emmanuel Quickly, the Tibbs back in Chicago would have never did any of that. And I think that this is something I've been saying all year, when you look at Tibbs and you just look at what he's doing on the court, and you make an assumption that he doesn't like these kids. He doesn't care about these kids. When an article like this comes out, you need to come back and be like, you know what, I was wrong, right? Because
Nobody gonna do that.
if anything, he's been more responsible for their success. And when they come out and they play well and all that, he's been more successful. He's been more responsible for that than anything, right? Imagine the way that Emmanuel quickly is getting treated now. Imagine Frank Ntilikina had that from day one, right? We might not be looking at Frank like a bust, like a bum, like why'd we pick him at whatever. At whatever. If he had somebody who said, "Yo, come to the early practice. Let me show you what we want you to do, what I want you to do when you're on the court, and we're gonna run that until you get it right." Frank Ntilikina would probably be a starting point guard right now, or at least a starting rotation player, a wing, whatever you need him to be. He'd be more like Lonzo Ball than what he is right now, and you have to give Tom Thibodeau that credit for bolstering our young players, making all of our young players, yes, they're talented. We picked them. Yes, that's good. But the fact that talent now shows on the court, that's on Tibbs. There's a reason why these guys that we have picked since Tibbs has been coach have all shined. And you can't be like, oh, fire Tibbs because of the youth. This youth would not look as good as it does without him. You got anything you want to say about that article?
I mean, you basically said everything I was thinking. Like, everyone's blaming Tibbs that he's not playing these young kids, and we start to see things like this come out, and you start to realize that Tibbs is responsible for why the young kids look as good as they do. But he obviously sees a bigger picture for them. He sees that they can be so much better than what they already are, and he doesn't want them getting caught up just because they have a few nice plays and highlight plays, and he wants them to have an extreme attention to detail. Like, to hell with the veterans. They can stay in the game, stink it up, but these young players are the players that are going to lead this team to where we're trying to go to. And if these guys have the talent to match the starters, and they look even better than the starters when they're off the court, like, if you can shore up every other part of their game, all that does is make the team so much better. So I want to see what happens next year. I don't really want to keep dwelling on this last year, because now that we get more and more information probably going to come out after this episode's released, and we're going to get more information throughout the summer. And when you see reports like this, it makes you feel nothing but more confident in the organization that you have around these young players. Because if that's the case, cool. They have 2-a-day practices for the young players, and that's the reason why their production is so much higher than it was the year before. They're getting so much better. Now, you implement a Cam Reddish into the same system over the summer with these young guys. Get to have that chemistry with them. You got more players to come in through the draft. Get them acclimated with other young players who are going to work hard. And you see what the system is that you coming into. It ain't just you and the person that you came drafted into that's going to have the weight of the team on your shoulders. Nah, you got other young players with you too. And they work hard, come to practice every day. They set an example for you to know what to expect for the rest of the season or the rest of your career with the Knicks in general. And what does that lead to? That leads to the teams that end in the playoffs where they're so deep. One guy goes down, next man steps right up. That's what it prepares you for, and that's what it leads you to. And it leads you to be a team like the Memphis Grizzlies, to be like a Minnesota where every player is just valuable in their role. They know what they're out there to do. They know what their role is while they're out there on the court. Golden State. It comes from being precise in the way that you study the game, in the way that you practice, in the way that you learn the game. You study players around the NBA and you start seeing their tendencies and you start learning how to guard that. Now you're starting to win more games. Like, that's how you win in this league. We see young players becoming stars every single season. There's always breakout teams where it's like, yo, how did they were under the radar? The Suns just 2 years ago weren't even in the playoffs. They were the undefeated team in the bubble and still didn't make it to the playoffs. What happened the next year? They made it to the finals, won the first 2 games, and lost the last 4. Came back this year, still the number 1 seed. Stuff like that isn't just developed in 1 year. It's developed with right decisions in the draft, right coaching staff, developing these young players, getting them to understand the system and buy into the system and put yourself to the side and put the team first. That's all we hear Tibbs saying. It ain't about how much you got. It's about how much the team got. It ain't about how much your man has. It's about your whole team stopping everyone from scoring on the other side. Make it as hard as possible. Move the ball. And that's what we're seeing from these young guys. And it just makes you excited to see what is to come in the future as these players get more and more chemistry together, shore up more and more skills. RJ doesn't even have go-to moves yet, and he averaging 20. What's going to happen when he develops a go-to move and he starts knocking down his free throws and he starts scoring more efficiently? What does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
Not even mentioning the defense. He's going to get better on defense as well. What does that look like? That's what we have to look forward to. So that's enough of my rant. We could go ahead and start talking about what's going on in the playoffs. You ready to? You've been watching the playoffs, right?
I have been. You want me to? You want to set it up, or you want me to do it all? You want me to do it all?
I could set it up, but you're gonna have to take it over from there because I ain't been watching too many playoff games right now. In the Eastern Conference, at least, Miami versus Atlanta. Miami is up 2-1. They were up 2-0 just recently until Trae Young just did what Trae Young does, took over late, iced the game away with a floater, hit his game winner. Miami choked away the win, and you could take it from there at that point.
I mean, that's basically what I was gonna say. They're gonna go back for Game 4 in Atlanta. Mad as hell. I don't want either one of these teams to make it to the finals, although I suspect that Miami might make it.
I bet
They'll at least make it to the Eastern Conference Finals. But yeah, I don't want Atlanta to make it past round 1. I was saying it all playoffs last year. I felt like it was fluke after fluke for Atlanta. I felt like they didn't deserve to make it to round 2. I felt like the Knicks should have beat them. They didn't. Then they made it all the way to the conference finals, I believe.
Yep.
And yeah, I really felt like that should have been the Knicks. Wasn't. Salty. Don't like the whole Trae Young of it all, but
hey, you got nothing. You got no choice but to respect it, though. He did what he was supposed to do.
That boy is good.
He's good.
Yeah, he's good. He's good. But yeah, I want him to be shut up because he ain't that good.
That nigga's good.
His team ain't that good, at the very least.
Very true.
All right. You want me to just take over from here?
Yeah, take over. I ain't been watching. I've been trying to relax.
We got so next up, Boston versus Brooklyn. Boston's up 2-0. Bum ass Brooklyn choked away games 1 and 2. Can't wait until they lose. And these are the 2 Eastern Conference games that, full of teams that I really don't want to see win, but you have to choose. I don't like Boston. I don't like Miami. Knicks reasons. Brooklyn, Atlanta, Knicks reasons. The recent history is Brooklyn and Atlanta. So, sorry. Get them up out of here in round 1, and then Miami and Boston can lose in round 2. Or the Eastern Conference Finals. Theither one. I don't care. They're already set up for whatever. So, it really doesn't matter as long as they don't make it to the finals.
So, you want Milwaukee to go to the finals?
Yeah, I'm fine with that. I have no skin in the game with Milwaukee. None.
I wouldn't be
affect.
interested in watching Milwaukee in the finals. I'm not.
I'm not interested in watching anything except for Knicks finals, so I'm good with that. So Milwaukee could make it again. If not Milwaukee, the team in the Eastern Conference that I'd be most excited to see. There's no Eastern Conference team that I would be most. I think the best matchups from the Eastern Conference all involve teams that I don't want to see make it to the finals. But Miami is a good team. Boston's a good team. Milwaukee and Philly.
I'd want to see Boston in the finals.
The Knicks fan in me just does not want to see it. I expect to see Boston in the finals. I'm prepared for it. I have no hate in my heart for any of the current Boston players, unlike all of the Boston teams of yesteryear. Maybe Marcus Smart, but not really. Like I'm good. I'm good with Boston. I just don't like Boston. All right. I don't like Boston Celtics. The only way that this NBA playoffs could be worse for me as a Knicks fan is if the Indiana Pacers were in it. Right. I'm fine with Chicago because I grew up a MJ fan, but I know that would for our parents that would be like, dang, all of the Knicks enemies would be in it if Indiana was in it. So yeah, so next up, Milwaukee versus Chicago. Speaking of those two, Milwaukee is up 2-1. I got nothing really to say about. I don't. Chicago
Middleton
really.
Hurt. DeRozan came crazy, went crazy on them, and then they got the game. Now the series is looking a little more even to me. I don't know. That's the series to watch because Chris Middleton is important.
Milwaukee's gonna win.
They should win, but Chicago got 3 All-Stars too.
Anyway, Philly versus Toronto.
All right.
Philly up 3-1. I said when we were originally supposed to record, I wrote in my notes, I'd be shocked if this isn't a sweep. Toronto lost Scotty Barnes to injury in game 1, and I don't see them having answers for Embiid, Harden, and Maxey. So that's what I said. That's what I wrote when we were originally supposed to record. And after today's impressive victory, the Raptors avoided the sweep. So that series is still going.
Are you shocked?
Toronto's a good team. Scotty Barnes came back.
I'd be shocked if this ain't a sweep. You lied to yourself. You ain't shocked.
I am shocked, actually. I watched the game today, and I was like, the entire time. I was like, they're going to come back and win. They're going to come back and win. Like, I had even up to the last minute, because it was a very close game. I was like, Philly's going to come back. But obviously at the end, it's like, they might not win. I don't know. But I really thought that Philly was gonna lock it up and sweep them, and that was going to be it. And the only thing that I could think of is that Philly saw what was going to happen in the next round and was like, we don't need that much rest. We don't need that much rest. So let's do the gentleman sweep and, be a little, still have a little bit of rhythm for game 1 of round 2. That's the only thing that I could think. So the gentleman sweep is still available. What?
I don't have too much confidence in Philly. I'm not gonna lie. So
I don't have confidence in them. I don't have confidence in them for the entire playoffs, but I had confidence in them in round 1.
Yeah. What about the Western Conference? What's going on over there?
Well, Phoenix is playing against the New Orleans Pelicans. Pelicans were actually the 9th seed before the play-in, beating both the Spurs and the Clippers.
I was shocked.
So
I thought the Clippers was definitely making it to the playoffs.
And they definitely did not. So
wait, before you say anything else, quick. They didn't make the playoffs. You think PG is gettable?
No.
Why not?
Because Kawhi Leonard didn't play pretty much all year. And that's really the difference between the Clippers being a top 4 seed and being where they are now.
Kawhi ain't playing
And
like 2-3 years.
no, he played
Who
last year,
knows what's
did he?
going on over? Nah, he ain't played last year.
Oh, I'm
If
about to
he
look
did,
that
it
up
was
'cause
like
I don't
what,
believe
3
you.
games? Look, Kawhi Leonard. I'll Google it right now. For you. I know Kawhi Leonard ain't played last year because that's they've been saying, oh, Kawhi he gonna come back for the playoff. Nope, he ain't come back last year. This year, who knows what's going on next year? Kawhi Leonard's stats is what I should look up.
Yeah,
Because
2021 stats.
look,
Yeah, I'm
2021.
looking. Uh-huh.
Where's
Yeah,
games played at?
he played 2020, 2021. We're in 2021, 2022. So he played 52 games last season. He played in and started
In the
52
beginning?
games.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the
I don't
Matrix.
know.
It's like
I just
you can tell me that, but I don't remember seeing him play at all last year.
you can tell me that, but I'm not going to believe it. He even played in the playoffs in 2021. He played it. He played and
What?
started in 11 games
Let me
of
look
the
it up on
playoffs.
YouTube. I could,
You don't trust me? I'm
I'm
looking
not
on
bugging.
Basketball
I could have
Reference.
sworn they were saying Paul George took over the Clippers in the playoffs and they made it to the
He
am I
did.
lying? Am I bugging right now?
He did. When Kawhi got hurt, Paul George stepped up, and
Oh, in the bubble.
that's what you're thinking of.
All right. Yeah.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's what
All
you're
right.
thinking
My
of.
fault. You're right.
But he played
Not the
last year.
Matrix.
I believe he played in the beginning of this season as well. But yeah. Anyway, yeah, Kawhi Leonard makes a difference. They're not winning a title with just those two. Let's be clear. But he ain't leaving the Clippers to come to the Knicks unless we have somebody already here, which we don't.
Randall for Paul George. Let's make it happen. Let's start talking business.
Let's start those conversations. So
Let's get Cam Reddish his mentor.
Phoenix is up in this series 2-1. And if you had the Pelicans putting up this much of a fight against the Suns, like shoot me a number because I need them all the betting advantages I can get. And obviously you got your pulse on you got your pulse on the NBA season in a way that I don't have. I do not care that Devin Booker is out with a hammy issue. I did not see the Pelicans. Of course they are. But I did not see the Pelicans having as much of a struggle. I didn't see the Suns having that much of a struggle with the Pelicans. Like, they're struggling. These are not easy wins that they got. They almost went down 1-2 until, some late game heroics. Memphis versus
because they're the 1 seed underestimating a hungry young team. I wouldn't look too much into it. They're going pretty punch back.
And it's not just that. The Pelicans are a really good team since they made their trades midseason. Are they that good? No, but CJ McCollum makes a difference. Like when you watch them play, like that's a good team. That's a good team. They probably if they had this team from the get-go, they probably are not the 8 seed. But they are.
If
so
Zion
they're gonna
comes back, you think that series is a little more competitive?
Zion's not coming back.
Not a
Zion's
little more
not coming
competitive. Do you think he's a threat? He's not?
Yeah, 100%. 100% if he came back and played in this season. But in this series, there's just way too much smoke coming from the Pelicans camp to make me think that he's going to play in round 1. If they were to get past round 1, I wouldn't be surprised if they put out a statement saying, yeah, he's not playing for the rest of the playoffs. I wouldn't be surprised at that. They said he was supposed to show up at the beginning of the year. He didn't play a single game. So, take that for what it's worth. Memphis Grizzlies versus the Minnesota Timberwolves. The Minnesota Timberwolves upset the Grizzlies in game 1, but Memphis went up and won 2 more games after that. They're up 2-1. Anthony Edwards is making the case that he deserves to be picked number 1 over LaMelo. I'm not sure if he's actually proven it like 100%, but he's looking really, really good. What's your thoughts?
Yeah, Anthony Edwards is looking like a Michael Jordan out there. His
Mm.
shot is pure. He's athletic. He gonna be a problem one day.
He can do it all. Warriors versus the Denver Nuggets. Warriors are up 3-0 and looking for the sweep tomorrow. Championship odds are looking really good. Huh?
Who says no? Who says no? Jokic for Randall, what's up? They gonna talk?
Denver says no.
Sweat.
Denver says no. Those championship odds are looking really good for Golden State. Like, coming into the playoffs, you might not want to put money on that. And Steph still not back from injury. You got to really rely on Clay, who still hadn't been 100% Klay Thompson up to that point. And Draymond playing like Draymond. You got to count on that for the playoffs. Yeah. Now who is it? Jordan Poole? Jordan Poole stepping up? Mm-hmm. Yeah. That they looking real good. They got a lineup that people can't beat right now.
Golden State looking like they doing what Brooklyn is trying to do. Rest of their stars all season and then come back at the end, get their rhythm back, and then run through the playoffs. But Brooklyn's struggling to do that. Warriors up 3-0, looking like they're going for the clean sweep. Big difference.
Yeah, that's not a proven strategy by any means, but hey, whatever floats your boat. Next up,
what about the Knicks? The Knicks on the West. This is the biggest Knicks series that we have to look at in this playoffs.
So this is basically Knicks Bowl 2022 with the Dallas Knicksmas versus the Utah Jazz. Two players the Knicks might target in the offseason are Jalen Brunson and Donovan Mitchell. Both are being heavily featured in this matchup. Those are the two main players in this matchup up until today when Luka Doncic came back. Both are, I just said that. Right now, the series is 2-2. I had to update it because we're recording this right after the game 4.
Mm-hmm.
Jazz stole a game in Dallas in game 1. Brunson was averaging 32.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, 5 assists. Donovan Mitchell was averaging 33 points, 4 rebounds, and 5.5. I do not have the updated stats for both, although I can probably just look at it real quickly. But that just goes to show just how good both of these potential Knick acquisitions have been playing in this first round of the playoffs. Brunson. I got it up right now. Where I can't find him. All right, never mind.
It ain't important.
My eyes ain't working too great. Julius Randle, Allen Houston, Worldwide West attended this game and attended game 1 and were seen chatting it up at halftime. You have any thoughts, predictions?
Utah front office or Utah people in the organization, they felt a way about that, and I found that funny. That's the only thoughts I really have on it. Like Julius Randle, yeah, you come and look and see where you about to get traded to. I don't know. Like it's no way to really read this because it's just like, okay, Allen Houston, Worldwide West, and Julius Randle are at the game 1. We know why Allen Houston and Worldwide West are there. I know Leon Rose is probably there somewhere. They probably scouting the players in the playoffs, seeing who they would want to trade for possibly, but I didn't understand why Julius Randle was there. That's the only thing that made me scratch my head a little bit. It seemed like if we continue to see things like this, then maybe Julius Randle might not get traded. If we keep seeing appearances with him when the front office, it seems like they working through whatever issues they had throughout the year. I don't know. I don't really like it because I'm really tired of seeing Julius Randle on this team now at this point. But
you want to hear my thoughts on that?
Once we get to Summer League and we see the front office again, if Julius Randle's there, then I pretty much don't think we're going to trade him. But what's your thoughts on it?
I think it was just a happy coincidence that Julius Randle was there. I was listening to Knicks Film School podcast, and Jeremy Cohen was like, that's weird. Why would Allen Houston, why is he sitting all the way over there and Julius sitting right next to Worldwide West? Oh, maybe they switched seats so that Julius Randle could sit next to Worldwide West at halftime so that they could talk. Which means that it wasn't something that was planned. It was kind of a happy coincidence that Julius Randle was there. Dennis Smith Jr. also was there. He has nothing to do with the Knicks right now. So maybe a lot to do about nothing. The fact that the Knicks brass are there for this series, I think that is just, we just have to be happy about that. I do not think that what happens in this series has an effect on whether Julius Randle remains a Knick or not. After doing a little bit of research earlier today, any trade that involves Jalen Brunson is not going to involve Julius Randle, to my knowledge. If we're going to get rid of him, it's not going to be with a Brunson trade. Donovan Mitchell, on the other hand, maybe, but it was in Dallas, so I feel like they were going there specifically to look at Brunson, and while they're there, they could look at Donovan Mitchell too. The only way that the Knicks actually get at Donovan Mitchell is if the Jazz lose in round one, and that is based on rumors and hearsay, not anything confirmed or anything like that. And apparently they won on a Donovan Mitchell to Rudy Gobert alley-oop. So, yeah, maybe they can make it work. Who knows? All right. So I guess we're going to go into predictions.
Yeah, I guess we are, huh?
Through real quick. Last episode, French predicted Knicks go 1-0, so he'll finish the season victorious once again for the third week in a row. Man. Anyway, plugs.
Oh, man.
Plugs. Let's get into plugs.
I finished undefeated, basically.
Let's go into plugs.
No,
for real though. French, you went on a little streak at the end there. 3 weeks in a row after going through multiple weeks of not predicting correctly.
Only
you finished the season.
I couldn't go first. Let's get
finish the season on a very strong note. Clap it up. Hold on. Let me do this for you. Yeah, clap it up for him. Good job. And that's all you get. All right, let's go into plugs. RJ Barrett had an interview on the Old Man and the Three podcast. French, you actually listened a little bit to the podcast on this podcast. You want to say some things about it before you get into your recommendations?
With what this podcast is, this is a former NBA player, JJ Redick's podcast. And he basically just brings on the best young players around the NBA and some of the best veterans around the NBA. And he gets them on to just talk basketball. He's had Luka Doncic on there, Jalen Brunson, Chris Paul, Mikal Bridges. He just had a long list of young players who are like seen as very underrated. At least from my perspective, I see a common theme with the kind of guests that he have. And RJ Barrett came onto the podcast, talked about basically a bunch of stuff with Tibbs and how close he and Tibbs are, how close Tibbs is with just or he was comparing Tibbs and Coach K and all the similarities that they have. It was a good interview. If you're a Knicks fan, I recommend you go out and check that out. Old Man and the Three on basically anywhere you can find podcasts. You can look it up on YouTube. They have video for it. Just search up RJ Barrett and it should probably be the first thing that pops up.
All right. You got anything?
And while I'm giving you recommendations on stuff to watch, well, why don't we just move over to French's recommendations?
Bing bang.
Isn't that just the best way to lead into that? Because what I have watched in these last few weeks, On the TV show side, you've probably watched this, right? It was number one on Netflix for a little period of time. Most people I know watched it. Show called Ultimatum. It's a group of couples. One person gives the other person in their relationship an ultimatum: either marry me or I'm going to move on. And they get onto this, I guess it's a show where, okay, yeah, it is a show. It's a limited series. And they basically going to be living with someone else's partner who also went through this ultimatum. So they're putting all these couples together who all had a partner give the other person in their relationship an ultimatum, and now these people are going to be dating each other. You're going to live together, pretend to be a married couple for 3 weeks, and then you go back to the person that you came in with, live with them again for 3 weeks, and then you have to make a decision on what you're going to do. Are you going to get married or you're going to move on? And that show was crazy. It's nuts. I recommend everyone watch it. It was very entertaining. This is something that I should also recommend where I got it from. My girlfriend Jaya, she was watching it. I came home. I'm like, yo, what is this? We don't watch stuff like this. Like, what you doing? It looked like some reality TV, love and hip hop, but it's nothing like that because I don't watch stuff like that. This show it was very intriguing. On the movie side, DC did it again. You know what I'm saying? Just letting Marvel know how to make good movies. Marvel just been trying to catch up for years on just Batman in general. And they've just released another just beautiful Batman movie. I was very reluctant to go and see it because I'm a big fan of like just Batman in general. Away from movies, I like Batman in the video games and the Arkham series. I think you're the one that put me onto Arkham series actually. But I love the comic book stories, like TV show Batman stories. Like Batman is just my favorite comic book entity, if that's what you could call it. So going into this movie, I felt very nervous because I had very high expectations, and it's a 3-hour movie. My attention span, I can't really get with movies that are 3 hours. I gotta keep pausing it and just go and do something else because I get bored. But this movie had my attention throughout the entirety of the movie. I got tired, so I did pause it like with 45 minutes left to go, and I had to go to sleep, and then I finished the next day. Great movie. Recommend anyone to go and see it, especially if you know things about Batman, and if you're a Batman fan and you know like the Bruce Wayne story. It's just such a different aspect of Gotham that you've never seen like on film, and it basically explores the fact that Batman is the world's greatest detective. And I didn't feel like they've ever shown that in any other Batman movie previously. They explored Bruce Wayne a lot more in this movie, being a lot more hurt, and it's very early on to him being Batman. It's him in year 2. I don't want to spoil nothing. Just know it's not like any other Batman movie that you've seen. It's very original, very grounded in reality, and this version of Batman is my favorite on-screen Batman that I've seen so far. Best Batman introduction movie so far, hands down. It's better than Batman Begins, better than every other Batman introduction movie. That's all I have to say. Go and see the Batman.
It's very, very high praise. It didn't trip you up that Robert Pattinson was Batman?
Robert Pattinson is the best Batman.
Really?
He's the best Batman. The best.
If you'd have told me,
he might not be the best Bruce Wayne, but he's the best Batman for sure, hands down. Way better than Ben Affleck. I don't even consider Ben Affleck as Batman, to be honest with you. I didn't watch none of those Batman versus that wasn't Batman. This Matt Reeves Batman movie, this is it. This is it.
All right. Edward
You
Cullen
gotta
is the
watch
GOAT
it.
Batman.
You gonna
I
like
will.
it.
I probably will. You know I'm into that kind of stuff. So I wasn't super hyped to watch it, but if you're giving praise like that, you also gave praise to the Joker movie, which I saw and I liked. So I definitely will check it out.
This is better than
All
Joker.
right. Well, Joker was okay. Like, it wasn't, that's not really saying a lot for me. I think it was a good movie. It's not like, oh, if you say it's better than
Yeah.
Joker, then I definitely, like, it's not, it was not that kind of, it's not that kind of good.
Right,
It's a good movie. Like, you know what I mean?
Riddler was
check it
really
out, though.
good. Riddler's always been one of my favorite Batman villains. And the one criticism is that I wish that we could introduce more Batman villains, because the villains in Gotham are just nuts. Like, Victor Zsasz needs to be in that next movie. I feel like we need to get away from Joker, because I feel like we've been doing a lot of Joker. We're not going to follow in the steps of Heath. We should just
Jokered out.
I'm Jokered out, and that's my Joker's the reason why I'm into Batman, and I'm Jokered out. So I'm ready to see some new Batman villains, and I'm hoping that because we got to see a one who doesn't seem to be, I don't know, maybe Riddler is popular enough to be in the movies, but I'd like to see some of the undercover ones. There's a lot of great Batman villains.
There are 100%. Batman has probably the best villains out of all comic book heroes. But anyway, all right, we've been talking long enough. Ready to sign out, French?
I'm ready to sign off, sign out, and get some sleep.
All right.
Season's over.
Please, when while you're here, make sure you hit that like, hit that thumbs up, hit that subscribe. Make sure you comment, do everything. Look for us on the podcast streaming platforms. Try and shout us out wherever you can. Watch the YouTube. Watch us again on the YouTube. We're gonna be trying to do a little bit more on that. Do some extra clips. Do some extra side stuff. We're gonna try and get to work for y'all. All right. Once again, thank you. We appreciate you. Love you. Thank you for listening to
The Knicks Take Podcast.
Deuces.
What it do?
That intro music was Broadway Boo by Gotti B, formerly known as Bugatti Blade. You can find us on Twitter at The Knicks Take. You can also find us on Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. Thank you for listening.